So what is the first assassination? Well, we'll just do a quick history lesson from Mr. Jack Mandeville.
First successful assassination?
I'm by no means a subject matter expert on this, but coincidentally, a few months ago, I was doing research. We wrote and shot one of the episodes I'm doing for my new history YouTube channel that a few guys around me right now encouraged. I was doing one of the subjects I'm doing is on Robert Todd Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's son, who's arguably one of the most unluckiest in American history. But so the first successful assassination attempt was on Abraham Lincoln. We all know what happened there. But that was politically motivated. John Wilkes Booth, his assassin, was purely politically motivated.
Which is wild because like the rest of the assassination that
it was a conspiracy. There were a few of them involved with that.
The only person who followed through with it was John Wilkes Booth.
John Wilkes Booth,
because they were supposed to take out Stanton,
yep.
right? Stanton,
that was
the vice president.
That was he tried, but he just wasn't successful with it. Yeah,
what happened?
One guy got cold feet.
They were trying to take out the entire cabinet, essentially.
Yeah.
No shit.
It was a conspiracy. There's
this is like a coup, an actual coup.
Yeah, so I think there was 8 or 9 people that went to trial, and I think like 8 of them were hung for it. But it was a pure conspiracy that was led by a actor of all people. And by the way, the Booth family,
apparently famous.
They were acting royalty. Like I don't know what the modern equivalent would be. Like who's like they were
Tom Cruise,
the Baldwins.
They were royalty.
I mean, the Baldwins did kill someone.
Yeah,
These goddamn actors, dude.
too.
Yeah, damn.
And Edwin Booth, the oldest brother, who was by far the most accomplished of all.
The Hemsworths. It's like Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, yeah, dude.
Taking out. Yeah,
But Edwin Booth
redacted.
was a pure actor in the sense that he didn't get involved with politics. He stayed out of that stuff. He just was on stage. Where John Wilkes, he got really obsessed about Abraham Lincoln there at the end.
You don't say.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was the first one, politically motivated. The second successful presidential assassination was James Garfield. That was a guy named Charles Guiteau who was batshit crazy. Charles Guiteau was the guy. He worked at a very low level in the administration, but in his head, Garfield had promised him all these cabinet positions and everything. But he was just like a crazy guy that.
Oh, so they actually had zero communication. It's just in his head, all this played out.
Yeah, he's like the guy that like keeps texting you for like 2 years straight, having a conversation with him, and you never respond. But he thinks that like you're in love with him, and then he drives across state lines to try to hurt you. That's what Charles Guiteau did to James Garfield.
Did he shoot him? I don't even know this one. This is like I've never Googled assassination.
Yeah, he shot Garfield, and Robert Todd Lincoln was there when his dad died, and Robert Todd Lincoln was there for the shooting of Charles Guiteau as well, because he was in the Garfield cabinet.
Didn't he go to try to save somebody at some point? I can't remember what that was.
Someone's son, he got saved off a train track.
That was Edwin Booth saved Robert Todd Lincoln's life like 5 months before John Wilkes Booth assassinated his dad.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Crazy shit.
Dude, that's
you can't
like
make,
dude.
Dude, they should make a movie about it. Like that's the craziest story
It's
ever.
the real life.
That's like
the real life Forrest Gump.
Yeah, that's like if one of the Baldwin brothers like saved Hunter Biden's life, and then one of the other probably Alec, because he's already killed, but Alec goes and takes care of Donald. Like, what the just happened?
It's like Barron Trump being saved by Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Off the tracks, little hand reaches.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, Robert Todd Lincoln recognized Edwin Booth. Like, this is the most famous actor in America. Back then, they didn't give a who the president's kids were. So Edwin Booth's like, yeah, just save some dude's life. It was the president's kid. And then, so the next successful attempt.
Well, how did he kill? It was just gunshot.
It was gunshot,
head?
yeah. I think he got him in the stomach. And
1800s, you die.
Yeah.
Man, yeah.
And that he died of no, that was McKinley. But it took him a while to
like
die.
sepsis.
Yeah. So McKinley died of sepsis.
So back then they tried to amputate your stomach. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They literally back in the.
When was McKinley? Like 1910?
McKinley was 18. Oh no, McKinley was like 1901 was his assassination. 1898. He was killed like during the third year of his presidency. Guess who else was there for that?
Yep, 1901.
Robert Todd Lincoln was there for that one too. It was at the World Expo. McKinley was. He invited Robert at that point.
I would never have that guy around anything. I'm like, this guy's an inside. That would. He's a Clinton at that point.
He's the umbrella guy at the JFK thing. Like,
Literally, it's the Clinton who's like, why is he always there and people dying?
Yeah. Robert Todd Lincoln, at that point, he had retired from, he was a very accomplished diplomat, very accomplished. He was the Secretary of War, which is a big position. Very accomplished guy, arguably, other than being president, more accomplished, did more than his father did. But again, like that guy was just a bad luck charm. And he had retired from public life because he's like, there's a lot more shit that happened with him too that I won't even get into, but yeah, he retired from public life, but McKinley's like, hey man, everyone like your old Republican dad. I'm a Republican. Why don't you come out to this expo? And then McKinley got shot.
he's like the slender man of history. He's just always there in the background of a photo somewhere.
Yeah. And then the guy,
The
guy who shot McKinley, you could call it politically motivated, but he was like an anarchist and a nut job because most anarchists are nut job, except for Neil Peart. He's awesome, man. He wrote all them freaking Rush songs. And glittering prizes and endless compromises shatter the illusion of integrity. What the f does that mean? Only Neil Peart knows what that means. Anyways.
And you, Jack.
Yeah.
So wait, that guy was just crazy and...
I mean, he was an anarchist, but
what was his reasoning behind it?
I couldn't tell you. McKinley.
You'd have to figure out the Rush
If you
song.
want to talk about deep state, McKinley was arguably the first deep state president because the first American, not the first, but the first big American conspiracy that ever happened was the bombing of the USS Maine and our then involvement in the Spanish-American War. And the conspiracy is that we bombed the USS Maine ourselves so we could justify, because it was U.S. policy. Like Spain had two strongholds left in our part of the world, Puerto Rico and Cuba, and America was hell-bent. It had been our policy for 80 years at that point that we need to get these European out of our area. And the conspiracy is that McKinley bombed the USS Maine on purpose just so he could justify pushing Spain out of Cuba and Puerto Rico.
Or at the very least, the idea was that, if there was a, cigarette goes in the wrong direction, it blows up anyway. The entire War Department's like, that, we're doing that now. They blew it up.
I want to play with these toys. We got Gatling guns now.
The engine blew up. Didn't someone confirm it or no one confirmed anything? We just talked about that. Like
the accusation was that Spain bombed the USS Maine, but there was no incentive for Spain to do something like that. Their military was already crumbling. Like there's no reason why the government of Spain would have sanctioned a terrorist bombing on a U.S. naval ship.
Don't f with the ships, dude. We learned
Don't fuck with
shit.
America's boats.
Yeah.
To be fair, they could have easily said that about Pearl Harbor too. It's like,
Yeah.
why in the would they ever? Jesus Christ!
Why are those white guys flying Rising Sun planes right there? Yeah. Konnichiwa.
It's exactly what they did.
It's Imperial Japan, not modern Japan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The Twink Air Force, man.
The Uwu Air Force.
Yeah. Then the next attempted, not non-successful, and it's arguably, I don't want to, everyone's, and I don't mean to make this political, but everyone's all, people that I love Trump are really like, this is the most badass thing ever. I'm like, the most badass thing ever was the attempt on Teddy Roosevelt's life. Nothing comes close to that.
Because didn't it hit the speech?
Yeah. Yep. And they still have the papers from his speech with a bullet hole in it.
Cool.
Hit him in the lower chest or stomach, and that gets right back up, stands up, and says something I'm paraphrasing. It'll take a lot more than a bullet to kill a bull moose, and finished his speech.
And then didn't get elected.
And the guy who shot him, yeah, exactly. The guy who shot him, a nut job. He was having dreams that President McKinley was telling him to avenge his death by killing Teddy Roosevelt. So that's why he was a shopkeeper, and his name was Shank or Shrank or something like that. So Roosevelt was unsuccessful. It's funny you say, like, still lost the election.
Yeah.
That was what, and as you said, he did the entire speech afterwards.
Yeah, he completed his speech and lived. Roosevelt was a big man. He used to eat like 4 pounds of bacon and like a dozen eggs and a pot of coffee. Like Roosevelt
he's literally me.
Oh yeah, Roosevelt was a burly man.
Just funny. Like if you want to lose complete faith in the idea of a third party, just know that after 2 terms, Roosevelt tried running third party and failed.
Yeah,
Teddy Roosevelt couldn't do it.
Damn. Yeah, and never gonna happen.
But hey, Jill Stein might make it.
Get 2% of the votes. It's gonna crush it. Can't wait.
2% would be a victory. They'd be letting loose the balloons at midnight.
yeah.
I hate how true that is.
She's my president in Vermont. Yeah.
So Teddy's probably one of my favorite, just for like the Rough Riders. Though, was the war? Who did the war on pigs? What is it?
The Bay of Pigs?
The Bay of Pigs.
Oh, that was Kennedy.
That was Kennedy. I was way off. Never mind.
Which that could be. That's part of the conspiracy of why he was killed. The Bay of Pigs was an utter failure. People forget with Kennedy. We glamorize and romanticize him now, and we hold him on this high pedestal. But
Marilyn Monroe romanticized him then.
Yes. Oh, and his brother Bobby. Yeah, both those guys were tagging her.
At least they kept it in the family.
They kept it in the family. Yeah, those Kennedy boys. The reason why Kennedy was campaigning so hard in Texas, the reason why he was down here in the first place, where he got shot in Dallas, was there was a very good chance he might have lost Texas. He had up a lot of things, and his chance at winning re-election was not safe. So he was campaigning really hard. People forget, like, his presidency wasn't that successful. Richard Nixon was a piece of shit, but he had a more successful presidency than JFK did. And I'm not just talking about the time of his presidency. He actually got a lot more done than Kennedy ever did.
That's the stuff because you have like JFK, the moon landing, and what?
Well, JFK, he wasn't.
Landing was later, I thought.
JFK was.
He started the
moon landing was 1969.
To JFK's credit, he is the one that really
started the program.
Yeah, he's the one that encouraged our venture into space. So he did do a lot of great things, but the Bay of Pigs was like one of the most colossal ups by an American president ever.
In my opinion, though, some of the best things Kennedy ever did was the things that he didn't do, the things that he blocked. Like a lot of the central banking stuff, a lot of things that he would not allow to continue to go forward, taking us off the gold standard, shit like that. Which
is crazy. You see it a lot that people that come from these aristocratic, generationally wealthy, New England, Northeastern families. Teddy Roosevelt was one of those guys. They're the ones that want to bust the system down the most because they grew up in it. They know how it works. And if you get the right one, a JFK or a Teddy Roosevelt, those people genuinely cared about the common man, and they came from the background to be able to do something about it.
When you say the central banking, that JFK busted or he stopped it, what do you mean by that?
That's actually one of the conspiracies as to why he was axed. Is he was basically throwing up a big brick wall as far as like taking us off of the gold standard and different things like that had to do with the Federal Reserve.
No shit.
And so whenever you go against the Federal Reserve, I mean, Saddam learned, Gaddafi learned, don't with the central bank. You will be replaced.
There is attempted, and then there is people, they stopped it. They seen like a background. I know Obama had like 3, George Bush had 4.
Those were threats, but like
threats.
Gerald Ford, after Kennedy, went through 2 attempted assassinations. One of them, a cult member, part of the Manson family, a crazy person. And that attack was stopped by a former Marine Vietnam veteran named Oliver Sipple. Oliver Sipple saw, her name was Froman. Kinky Froman, no. Something Froman. Wiggly Froman, one of those weird Manson family names. He saw her present the gun. He grabbed the gun away from her and saved the president's life, basically. And Oliver Sipple at that time was like a closeted gay guy. And Harvey Milk who was the first publicly elected
gay official.
Gay official. Harvey Milk really him over big time, and basically like because he was so obsessed with like saying a gay guy saved the president's life, he outed Oliver Sipple, and it like just created chaos in Oliver Sipple's life because he wasn't openly out. His mother kind of like disowned him. He like died sadly in the 80s from like diabetes. He just had kind of a sad ending to his life because Harvey Milk wanted to make a point out of him, but
in a good way. He meant well, but
he meant well, but
Sipple's just like
this is the 70s.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, dude, I'm from Alabama, dude. This isn't gonna fly well with my family.
It's the Key and Peele skit where it keeps talking about the gay community, and it cuts to the guy that's just like, like he's like, what? Yeah. Anytime they say gay, the camera cuts to Key, I think, and he's like, what?
Yeah. And then
he's like moving out of the way, and the camera refines him.
And then the last attempt after that was a crazy person. Like we said, he was a guy that was a little too much obsessed with Catcher in the Rye, like the guy who shot Lennon, Mark David Chapman. And he thought Jodie Foster was his girlfriend. And, she said one negative thing about the president of the United States, and he thought
You
he had
didn't know that?
No.
Yeah, no.
Treat. I will say this: just treat everything. If I have this face, go in depth because I have no idea on any of this, and I'm sure 90% of you are like, huh?
John Hinckley, the guy who shot Ronald Reagan when he was in office, was legitimately like that was his thing. Is he wanted to impress the actress Jodie Foster? That wasn't just a random
because she
attack on
said
Jodie Foster.
she just said she's like, I don't like Reagan, so he's like, I don't like him either now. I love Jodie Foster.
the original simp.
Yeah.
Which he's out of prison now, and he's making bluegrass music.
Yeah, he got released like what 3 years ago.
He's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I want to get him on the channel because I want to do the recreation of the Reagan shooting because I have the gun.
We're gonna have him on the podcast and that.
I don't have the gun.
I don't have the exact gun, but I have the exact same model, caliber, everything. Yeah. I bought it specifically to do a recreation because the Reagan shooting is an interesting one to me.
Color me impressed that he made it out. Like alive and then out of jail after trying to assassinate.
He got dogpiled. It's a shitty little 22 LR revolver.
You want to know one of the most wholesome stories from the Reagan attempt was people forget he almost died. And there was actually a crisis happening at the White House because George H.W. Bush was like overseas or gone or something like that. There was some sort of like secession crisis happening where the Speaker of the House at the time basically claimed that he was in charge. That's a whole different thing. But Reagan came extremely close to dying. People have no idea. And he's getting operated on these doctors, and I think it was in Georgetown there.
Yeah.
And Reagan looks up to the doctor and he's like, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And the doctor says, sir, everybody today is a Republican. Just a wholesome 80s story. If that was said now on like X or anything like that, nobody would believe it. But
be a TikTok dance and then shoot him in the head.
Yeah, because I think that was the original quote, something along the lines. It might have been that, or it might have been the one I heard was, before he goes under.
Oh, I hope you voted for me. You're right.
I hope you're all Republicans.
Yeah. That's what he said. Yeah.
And then the one before that, I think before he got operated on, it was he was talking to his wife Nancy Reagan. They said like something along the lines of, not paraphrasing, but he's like, Nancy, I should have ducked.
Yeah.
The guy was a one-liner machine, even while currently shot.
And then a couple years later, he's giving a speech in Berlin, and a balloon popped, and he just stops his speech and goes, "You missed me." Yeah.
Reagan was the lovable grandfather of the country.
Yeah.